What's going on, everyone? So as I recently passed 1 year of studying Spanish so far, I've been reflecting a little bit about my journey and that kind of thing, and I thought in this video I'd talk to you guys about 4 things that I wish I had known before I started learning Spanish. So just before we jump into it, I just want to give a really big thank you to all of you that have subscribed to this channel. We've just passed 100 subscribers, so I know that's not a massive thing to most people, but for me that's pretty cool. You know, there's over 100 of you that want to see more of my videos, so yeah, thank you very much. But anyway, without any more preamble, let's jump into the video. Okay, so the first thing that I wish I knew before I started learning Spanish is the subjunctive is not that scary. Let me just jump in here quickly. I don't want to make out like it's just the simplest thing and if you don't understand it, you're an idiot, or to try and pretend like I know everything about it. But when I first found out that the subjunctive was a thing, that it existed, I was basically bombarded with all this fear-inducing information that the subjunctive was so hard to learn. Even lots of people saying that, you know, you can just ignore it, you can just get away with not learning about it to speak Spanish, which I suppose to some extent is true, but I would much rather be able to use it. Anyway, once I finally jumped into it and started actually trying to learn it and figure out what it was and how it worked, once I jumped back into my immersion, I just started to notice it more. I just started to see it pop up in all these different places, and over time, with more exposure, different contexts and all this kind of stuff, you start to build a bit of an understanding of what it's about. But yeah, when I started learning Spanish, I thought the subjunctive was something to just avoid at almost all costs, and now I would say that it's not that bad. Just get on with it. You're going to have to learn it anyway if you want to speak good Spanish, and if you've learned other things about verbs and conjugations and stuff, then it's not going to be that much different. So yeah, don't be scared of the subjunctive. Okay, the second thing that I wanted to bring up in this video, which is there are very different accents in Spanish, and that sounds super obvious to a lot of people, but when I started, I didn't realize how different the accents were and how much of a difference that would make to my learning. So I'm not someone that believes that if you're learning Spanish, you should pick one accent, one way of speaking, and just stick to that. But I do think as a learner, especially as a beginner, it helps to kind of consolidate your focus towards one accent, towards one style of speaking. Like I've said in previous videos, I've chosen to focus on European Spanish, mostly because I live in England, so if I'm going to travel to Spanish-speaking countries, Spain is the easiest option. But obviously lots of people choose different accents for lots of different reasons. And again, like I say, I think it's fine to mix accents with the input that you're getting, watch TV shows from different countries, even it might even be productive for a lot of people, but I think starting out, it's good to pick one accent and one way of speaking, start to get a bit of a handle on that, and then, you know, branch out if you want to. So if you're starting out learning Spanish, think about why you're learning it, maybe what countries you'd like to visit, or what type of media you like to consume, and then make a decision on the accent you want to study based on that. Okay, so number 3. Again, this is something that probably sounds quite obvious to a lot of people, but it's a super easy trap to fall into, one that I've fallen into many times, and I'm sure I will continue to fall into in the future. But the third thing that I wish I knew before I started learning Spanish is that obsessively watching videos about learning the language will not help you to learn the actual language. Now, don't get me wrong, there are better and worse ways to do something, and so doing a little bit of research into how other people have achieved the kind of goals that you want to achieve, for example, have learned a language that you want to learn, is a great thing to do. It can help you shortcut your process, but like all of you will know, and myself included, YouTube is a dangerous place, and so spending loads of your time watching other people talk about their experiences learning Spanish, or comparing all of these different methods and stuff, it shouldn't be the bulk of your time. And so yeah, I wish I knew, I suppose, that learning a language, whilst is not easy, is quite simple. And there's not a whole lot to it outside of the fact that if you spend a lot of time around the language, receiving lots of comprehensible input, you are going to comprehend and, as a product of that, speak the language better. And so diving into hours and hours of talks and discussions and interviews and all these different videos about how people learn languages is nowhere near as useful in terms of learning the language as just spending time consuming content in that language. So again, it sounds pretty obvious, but it's an easy trap to fall into. Okay, and the final thing that I wish I knew before I started learning Spanish is that for me, there is nothing more powerful than content that I find genuinely engaging and genuinely exciting. When I started learning Spanish, I put myself through a lot of boring hours of consuming stuff that I assumed I had to because I was at a low level. I assumed that, you know, I couldn't go off and find things that were interesting. I needed to find stuff that was, you know, built for beginners and that was going to make it easier for me to understand. And there's a lot of logic in that. And of course, you know, if you know 0 words in Spanish and you try and watch some sort of native TV show with no subtitles or anything to help make it more comprehensible, you're going to struggle with that. But in my experience, I found that when I'm watching something or reading something, I'm engaging with a piece of content that I'm really, really passionate about, my focus levels and my will to want to understand is so much higher. Whereas if I'm watching something that's, you know, I understand a high percentage of, but is really, really boring, chances are my focus is going to drop off, and actually, like, the sum total of what I get out of both of those experiences, often I get more out of watching something that's engaging but a lot harder than watching something that's relatively easy to understand but is quite boring. So I really wish I had jumped a little bit earlier into stuff that I was just passionate about and I was interested in, because I feel like even if, you know, your percentage of comprehension drops a lot, even if you're only understanding maybe 20-25% of the words that you hear, of the phrases, you know, just picking out little sentences and things like that. There's pros and cons to both, but I feel like for me that's been a lot more productive, because I want to keep watching that content. I want to keep trying to figure out what these words mean. I want to keep looking up these tricky words that I keep seeing or hearing but I can't quite put my finger on, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, again, for me personally, finding content that I'm actually genuinely passionate about is the most important thing. And so yeah, I guess I wish I had kind of known that before I started. It would have saved me a lot of boring hours watching absolutely terrible YouTube series in order to try and help me learn Spanish. But you know, you live and you learn, and that's why I'm making this video. So yeah, those are the 4 things that I wanted to mention to you guys today, things that I wish I knew before I started learning Spanish. But of course, you know, it's a continual journey. I'm sure there are some things that I'm doing right now that I will look back on in the future and think, you know, that was a bit of a silly idea. So, you know, we're always progressing and growing. But as you guys know, I'm always super happy and super excited and interested to hear from you guys. So if there are things that you've done in your journey learning languages that you wish you hadn't, I'd be interested to know about them. Drop me a comment below. If you are enjoying these videos and you haven't subscribed already, I would super appreciate it if you did. But otherwise, yeah, just drop me a like and a comment. Let me know that you enjoyed this video, and yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Hasta luego.